Hello, Asaf. Welcome to the show. So happy to have you on today.
Hi, Moshe. Thanks very much for having me. I'm very excited and grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Of course. So, jumping right in, can you tell us what is Alison.ai and who do you serve?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Allison.ai, we're a creative analysis or creative insights technology. We're basically leveraging different AI engines and AI models to extract insights and provide recommendations towards what's actually working within videos, within images, banners, cinemagraphs, GIFs, basically any sort of visual creative that companies are now using. We do it basically to provide a better understanding of what makes a video perform better or worse, what elements, features within the videos are actually performing better, or some people even call it why videos are the why behind why videos are performing. Typically, you know, until today or until the age of Allison, companies or anybody around the world used to look at a video as an asset, as a black box, and we're looking to break that mold, if you want, and to look within the videos, understand the components, the features, the pieces within the videos that are making the creative, and understanding which part of the video, which part of the creative has more significance, has less significance, and how they impact the actual performance, regardless of the business goal that the company is looking to achieve. So that's Allison in a nutshell. Yeah.
Very cool. And are your customers, your users, are they advertisers primarily or content creators, YouTubers, etc.?
So currently, we're approaching mainly advertisers. We're serving mainly advertisers from medium to large and to enterprise levels. Um, yeah, any company that advertises online, like Google, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Reddit, whatever platform you use to run your ads on or your creatives on. If you're using any sort of visual creative, again, from banner, image to a video, it can be also any sort of video. We're the perfect tool for those guys because we're able to save them a lot of money, provide a lot of data and insights. Again, help them come up with a better creative strategy, a better marketing strategy, and overall just become a more efficient marketing machine, while constantly looking to improve performance and increase revenues, increase ROI, increase engagement, etc., etc. So these are the type of companies we're approaching. But I do think that in the future this would be able to expand quite heavily, and any content creator, any company that even or an influencer, for example, that has his own private profile or private account will also be able to use a technology like Allison.
Very interesting. So you're using AI to understand contextually what's in the image or in the video, and then using data analysis of the performance, whether it's engagement performance or I'm assuming you have conversion data as well, or looking at successful outcomes of the ad, and then using that to train what's a good ad, what's a good element within an ad, all of those components, right?
Yeah, that's quite precise. I might consider hiring you to my sales team. But yeah, um, so yeah, the way it works is, or maybe before the way it works, the reason we initially went into marketing and online marketing is first because this is my personal background. I have 15 years of experience in online marketing, and this is where I feel most comfortable, and I also experienced firsthand the challenges and the pain points, etc. But also, there's another thing. Online marketing is purely digital. When you publish something, when something goes live, when an ad goes live, it becomes public data, but also it starts accumulating data and gathering insights or gathering metrics. And those metrics we can later use to perfect our models, to train the models, and to be able to understand better if we're doing a good job or not, or if the tech actually works. So this is why we started with marketing and online campaigns. And the way we actually do it is when we get a video, the first thing that we do is we're leveraging 10 different AI engine to run a process called feature extraction. Basically, we look at a video using a machine or a few machines, and we extract thousands of little elements, we call them features, from within the video. So it can be sound, voiceovers, visual elements, technical elements, contextual elements, interactions, anything you can think of. And just as reference, from a 30-second video, we can now extract 25,000 features. When we started, we extracted 250 features. 6 months ago, we extracted 2,500 features. So we're multiplying ourselves almost every 6 months. Now we're able to extract 25,000 features from a 30-second video. Once we do this, we run deep learning models to actually find the correlations between those features and the actual performance of the videos. Performance meaning clicks, installs, revenue, whatever our clients are measuring. Once we do this, we can tell our clients exactly, precisely what's driving the performance behind their videos. Is it a combination of specific features? Is it maybe few features that are more dominant, maybe features that are damaging or hurting the performance? So we can then later not only provide them this as insight, but also actual recommendations. Tell them, hey, listen, if this is your game plan, this is your messaging, this is your audience, that's what you have to do. Use A, B, C, and D within your creative, within your videos, and they will perform better and they will achieve your business goals. So this is how it works, but it's not the end of the story. Because as an online marketer myself, I understand that this is just one challenge or one pain point that we were looking to solve. I think it's the major one, which is understanding the why videos, why creatives are working, mainly to save all of our customers from doing a lot of A/B tests, because A/B tests are extremely expensive, they're extremely wasteful, and they're inefficient. And the worst thing of this process is that in the end of the day, you don't really know. You just know that version A outperformed all the other versions that you've tested. You still don't know why, and it's not the optimum, right? So you keep on testing and testing and testing. And to be completely honest, this is one of the main reasons why companies, they have huge marketing teams, because the operation behind running those campaigns on scale, it's enormous. And by understanding what actually makes performance, or what actually makes the video perform better or worse, you don't have to A/B test. You just have to look at the data, look at the insights, and do one video that will be a winning video. So this was the first challenge. But then, looking at the entire marketing stack, when you do proper online marketing, you never just look at your own activity and that's it. Because when we advertise on Facebook, we're not operating in a void, for example. We're operating in a very competitive landscape, very competitive, right? So we're the only company in the world that not just looking at your own videos and analyzing them and providing insights and recommendations on those, we're also looking at your direct competitors, which is your direct market and your direct competition. We look at their creatives, we look at the videos, breaking them down into tiny little elements exactly as we do with yours, and then we're cross-referencing the two data sets between your activity and your competitor's activity. So we are able to continuously innovate and continuously be more and more creative, some sort of like a brainstorming session on steroids. And this is actually the second pain point that we've solved. This is the competitive research or competitive intelligence, we call it. That this is a crucial part with any online marketing activity. And what we've learned is that a lot of companies and a lot of agencies also, they're not really doing it. They're just scratching the tip of it. They look at 5 videos, 10 videos, and they try to understand what's working, what's not. Why? Because it's not humanly possible to look at 1,000 videos, break them down into 1,000 little elements, and correlate everything with your head, not even in an Excel. And so they're not doing it, so they're missing a major part of the success path. So this is the second pain point that we've solved. Explaining them, showing them exactly what's working for their competitors, so then they can push it into their own activities, into their own creative strategy. But then there's another challenge, which is, okay, I've realized what's working for me. I've realized what's working for my competitors. Now, how do I actually put it into production? How do I actually use those insights, right? So typically, there's a process called the briefing process, where we write a marketing brief. As marketers, we say exactly what we need, exactly what we want, what we think we need, the audience says, the platforms, everything, and then we send it via email, Jira, whatever you're using, to either an external creative agency or to an in-house studio creative team. Still, it's a terrible process. It's terrible because there isn't a unified way of writing those briefs. So every video looks a little bit different. If it's a different editor, if it's a different designer, it's a different animator, it looks different. Plus, it takes a lot of time to write those briefs. Publicists, for example, they say it takes between days and weeks to write one brief for a video. And still, this brief was being processed by a human being, meaning it has maybe 20 or 30 different data points. So what we're doing here different, and this is the third challenge or the third pain point that we've addressed, is we're gathering all the insights and all the recommendations from our platform, from Allison, and we build a smart brief within seconds. And every one of those smart briefs has billions of data points, not millions, billions of data points. So you can automatically send those briefs to any person who is designing or producing the videos for you. So imagine that instead of having a huge design team or a huge marketing team that has a very slow production pace, we could move extremely forward to a scenario where you can create 1,000 briefs a day.
But a human needs to ingest those briefs. How are they going to make sense of 1 billion data points? What are they doing with that?
That's a very good question. So the smart, the intelligence behind it is that we're not just showing you 1 billion different data points. We're digesting it, we're unifying it, we're making it into like a script, more like a story that you can really digest as a human being. And without even noticing, this script has billions of different data points behind it, and you don't even know.
So Allison is outputting a brief with a script that is based on the data that it has ingested and crunched to figure out the optimal version of an ad or a creative.
Exactly. You see, I told you I need to hire you to my sales team.
Is the next step for you guys to use generative AI to actually create the creative? Is that in your roadmap, or you think that that's going to remain with humans for a while?
So that's a very good question, and I think it's a question of core competency. Let's put it this way. I'll try to explain. First, I think that within 2 years, anywhere between 30 and 40% of short form videos will be produced by generative AI. So not by humans, right? But I think that this will cause an inflation in a lot of Gen I videos, right? Or a lot more videos out there in the market. Because if now were humanly possible, humanly able to create, let's say, one video a day using Gen AI, you would be able to produce 1,000 a day. So this will cause an inflation with a lot of new videos out there. And I think that the main question is not how many videos we have, or not how quick it is to produce a video. We think and we believe that the accuracy and the quality of the video, the accuracy or the relevancy to your own activity, the relevancy to achieve your business goals, the relevancy to your audiences, etc., these are the most important things. So we're not looking to compete with a lot of Gen AI video companies out there, from Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, and others. We're not really looking to compete with them. We're looking at the data sources that are being pushed into those models that I think will become a commodity in a year or two. But what I think will be the most important thing is the data behind it. Who owns the data? Who controls the data? Who digested the data? How do you build how do you layer the data in an explainable way, so the model, the Gen AI model, in the end, it's sort of an open source model, or a public model. How do those models will have enough relevant and accurate data in order to produce quality output? So this is where we're going, not into the producing the video itself, but making sure and preparing the data sets for those models to be as accurate, as relevant, and as high quality as possible.
Hmm. Speaking of the data, in the future, do you see potentially Meta or Google competing with you because they have that data intrinsically in their platform, right? Because they have the creative, they have the output or the outcomes, the KPIs to measure the performance. They are already in the business of offering advertisers optimization built into their product. Will that just be an inevitable next step where they just offer dynamic creative beyond what they're already doing, to the point, or almost to the point, of what you're describing here?
So first, I'll tell you a little secret, and it's that both Google and Meta are customers, paying customers of Allison. And there's a reason why. And to be honest, in the beginning, we were quite shocked that we thought it's a little bit of an absurd that those companies, huge tech companies, they have the data, like you said. Why do they need a small startup company from Israel to run the analysis and the insights for them? Then we understand by speaking with them, there's a huge gap, huge distance between having the raw creative data, raw video data, and having the raw performance data. Between those two data sets, there's huge gap, huge distance of digestion, of understanding, of providing the actual insight, what's important and what's not. Within a video that has 25,000 features, you need to build a mechanism that allows you to differentiate between the features that are highly impacting and maybe not impacting at all. It's not enough just to have all this data. So I'm not saying it's not possible for those companies. It's obviously possible, but it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of understanding and a lot of knowledge and know-how that needs to be digested in the process. So I think that both Google and Meta would be still using some sort of an external solutions exactly to fill this gap, because like you said, they have the raw creative data and they have the raw metrics, performance data, something to complete this gap, like we do with Allison.
Interesting. What about other competitors or startups? We actually had on the podcast a company called Omniki that is somewhat similar in terms of their offering. There are others out there like Pencil or AdCreative.ai. How do you think about the competitive landscape? How do you stay ahead of it? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so Luckily, I think that there's enough room for everybody, and I think that our space is still very much a blue ocean than a red ocean. More so, I think that each one of the companies that you've mentioned, I know very well, by the way, and there are a few others that we didn't mention, but each one of those companies, they have their own different approach, their own different style, their own different niche towards creative analysis or creative insights. Some they look at producing the videos to fuel A/B tests, right? Which is great, but I think it's looking at the future, looking at the present rather than looking at the future. I think that A/B test as a whole will not be necessary, will not be needed in the future. But still, there's other companies that they look to, let's say, build dynamic or build smart images or smart banners, for example, to be able to fit each one of the audiences or each one of the segments within your audience. We look at this in a completely different way. We look at it from the data perspective, from the insights perspective, from the recommendations perspective, and from understanding the entire marketing stack that starts from running a campaign, analyzing it, digesting it, running competitive research, competitive intelligence, analyzing it, digesting it, coming up with a brief that is ready for production, and then the cycle goes back and back and back where you produce the video and you push it back into your activity and you can measure it and analyze it again. So I think that each one of the companies you've mentioned and each one of our competitors, they have a different way, a different style of doing doing it. But also there's the tech question. I think that the companies who will survive or will flourish in the end, to be more exact, those are the companies who will have superior tech, in my opinion. And superior tech doesn't come up in a day. You don't build superior tech in a day. And it requires a lot of different business understandings and business aspects from the tech side, the infrastructure side, the AI, the future. You need to kind of foresee the future, kind of gamble or bet on what do you think will be the future of this space in order to really come up with a product that will be, or a technology that will be viable within 2 years from now, or even 5.
So, looking beyond that, let's say 5 years, even 10 years out, what's the grand vision for the company?
It's another good question. I think that Allison can completely transform how every marketing team with every company that advertises online look like. Everything. We say you don't need to have such big studios that designing so many different creatives. We say that you don't have to use so many different analysts and data people. You don't have to use people like supervisors or whatever to actually write briefs, or marketing managers to write briefs and make them ready for production. You won't have to use so many different campaign managers, because understanding what's working and what's not would be extremely easy. So we're looking to transform the way companies are looking into their marketing stacks and marketing activities. But also, I think we can go far beyond marketing, far beyond. I think, as I said initially, marketing and online marketing was a very good way to validate that our insights and our recommendations are actually working, because you have an actual performance, you see the revenue, you see the clicks, you see the installs or whatever, so you know if it's working or not. So this way we were able to train our models and perfect the models to be able to make sure that once we go outside of online marketing, let's say connected TVs, live streaming, even influencers or people like us that have streaming videos or videos within their private pages, I think our technology will be able to help and do a great job for all of those verticals and sectors as well. So the grand vision is, again, not only transforming and revolutionizing the way people are looking at their creatives and marketing stack as a whole, but going far beyond this and implementing the tool to help everybody look at creatives and look at videos from a data perspective without being a data analyst.
You got me a little bit nervous about a lot of layoffs coming in marketing. So what does the marketing team look like in that future state? Is it, one or two people, or how does that play out?
So I think, again, luckily we're not that close, or the market is not that close to be there. But I do think, again, being completely honest, I do think that marketing teams would be smaller in size in the future. I do think that they will have more of a technical aspect rather than inspirational or creativity or arty kind of way. And yeah, I think that it's going to be a very challenging future for marketing people, marketing managers, marketing experts. But at the same time, I think that as humanity, or as humans, we will be able to find new ways to utilize our talent, find new ways to dictate how those machines, how the AI and how those machine learning models, how they should work, and come up with newer and maybe more complex um, 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 jobs and activities that maybe AI and Gen AI won't be able to do in the near future. Um, I think analysis, to be, again, completely honest, analysis is definitely something that AI can do a lot better than a person, than a human being. And if you combine multiple AI engines, or identifying objects, identifying elements, understanding them, I think this is something that um, the new models can do a lot better than people, just because the limitation of our human capacity and human brains. But there are others that I think that are completely um, kept for humans. For example, somebody in the end of the day will need to communicate all of this to a manager, to a CEO, to somebody, right? Orchestrate all those tools, use all those tools in unison in order to actually come up with a good marketing stack. And this is where I think managers and marketing managers, marketing experts, and marketers in general will not be able to be replaced. Not in the near future, at least. Yeah.
We're entering a brave new world. You're right that the AI can do analysis better than humans, although insights, I would argue, are still, for the most part, a human activity. AI isn't there yet, as far as I can tell. Let's talk about your customers. Are you able to share, first of all, kind of just for sense of scale, like how many customers or revenue, or just give us an idea of where you're at right now from a growth perspective?
Yeah. Look, we were founded in beginning of 22, January 22. So according to now, currently we're live for 19 months. Um, and we have a very good traction, very good trajectory. We have dozens of customers, paying customers, obviously. And I think what's mostly interesting, and the reason I'm so passionate about what we do at Allison, is we don't do any paid marketing at all, and we get dozens of qualified leads to our website that is already needs to be updated and maybe not delivering the right message, etc. But still gathering dozens of qualified incoming leads per month. And I think that this is because all those companies that we've mentioned, all those advertisers and marketers, they feel those pain points and they're looking for solutions. They're looking for a way out of this mess. And now everybody understands that maybe AI and maybe even a small startup company can completely transform the way they look at their marketing and save them from low performance and high cost. Let's put it this way. Um, so, like I said, both Google and Meta are paying customers at Allison. We're working with the largest fintech companies in the world. Some of them are publicly traded. Some of them are huge banks, for example. We're working with a lot of gaming companies, and this is something very interesting, I think, because again, gaming companies, online gaming or mobile gaming, they're very advanced in their technology and they're very early adopters for any new technology that's on one hand, but on the other hand, they're measuring everything and they're measuring every single cent. And for them, a 1%, 2%, 5% uplift could be huge. So this is why they're utilizing a lot of new tools and a lot of technical tools, tech tools like Allison. So we're working with the biggest gaming companies in the world. The top 5 gaming companies in the world are working with us in B2B, also insurance, um, and even some of the biggest agencies in the world. Again, top 3, top 5 agencies in the world are utilizing and using Allison. So I won't share actual revenue numbers, just because we're looking ahead, and depend on when somebody will hear this podcast, it might change a lot, uh, increase a lot. So I don't want to just throw those numbers into the air. But yeah, we have dozens of paying customers with very high revenue and very high growth trajectory and growth path.
That's fantastic. So the customers or prospects that are coming to your website, you mentioned organically. Is that from SEO? Is that word of mouth? Community? What channels are driving those leads? And is it completely uh, just grassroots organic, or is it something that you've seeded on your side?
I think it's absolutely organic. Absolutely organic. We're not investing anything on online marketing at the moment. Maybe it's a shame because maybe we could we should have, but right now we're not using any paid marketing. I'm not investing in SEO so much. Again, I said we need to update the website. Maybe by the time people will listen to the podcast, they're already gonna look at the new website. And I think it's the 2 reasons for this. One, as I mentioned, it's actual people looking and actively searching for solutions. You call it grassroots, organic, or yeah. I think that's the main point. That's the main thing. But the second thing is the communities and the content. I'm very active in the AI and generative AI community, both in Israel and around the world. I try to share my perspective and share my knowledge around this area as much as I can at LinkedIn, conferences, events, podcasts like this one, etc. So I think it's also a very good way to um, to get to know Allison and get to know our technology and be exposed to it, and then maybe it's another channel for people to get exposed and then reach out to us.
Fantastic. What do you see as the channels that are going to be most important to your growth in the coming years as you scale up?
That's another good question. I think that first it's the development of AI. Okay, generally, like the more advanced AI becomes, the more advanced the LLMs and all the models we're familiar with are becoming. I think uh, the more Allison will grow, because we are early adopters of anything new that is coming out on AI and generative AI. We're utilizing very sophisticated, very high level technology. I call it superior technology, because Kobe, my partner, he's really a master. Master is a CTO. He's really a master when it comes to AI and machine learning, and he's able to almost do magic or do things that looks like magic. So yeah, I think moving forward, the organic growth, or the regular um, asymmetric growth of AI and Gen AI will help us grow as a buzzword from one end, but also as actual superior tech from the other. At the same time, I think that more and more companies are being exposed and getting familiarized with solutions like ours, to better understand the creatives, better understand their videos, have more data, have more insights, have an AI that can actually recommend what you should do or shouldn't do. AI that runs your competitive intelligence, etc., etc. Hey, AI to write your briefs. So um, I think that just being exposed to a solution like ours, both a lot of big companies, brands, and enterprises in the US, North America, but also in Western Europe, will be the first, already are, but also will continue to be the first early adopters for those for our solution, our technology. So this is definitely a growth path. Um, but also, looking at channels and looking at partners. If there's a good reason why we're working very closely with Google and Facebook, and there's a good reason why we're working with all of the other platforms and working with the biggest agencies in the world, like I mentioned. And the reason is that they have direct access to, tens of thousands, maybe millions of different advertisers that are actively looking, and they're desperate for solutions like ours. So I think channels and partners are going to be definitely going to be one of our stronger growth paths in the next year or two.
Do you see yourself staying kind of upmarket in terms of larger enterprise type, larger accounts, big marketing departments? Do you potentially see a path of offering kind of a self-serve approach for small to medium-sized businesses? Um, is that on your roadmap?
I see a path, yes. It's on the roadmap, yes. But I think that it's still challenging for a small or medium business to adopt such a high level of technology and high level of sophistication with their activities. So I think this is the main reason why we're actively approaching, or first we're looking into the larger size companies.
Is it because their team doesn't have the capabilities, or just they're not spending enough to generate enough data? Or what's the difference, kind of practically, between enterprise and SMB from this perspective?
Yeah, I think it's the general understanding of the importance, and the general understanding of videos, or general understanding of creatives. I think that the bigger companies that have more resources and they have more experience, and maybe even more historical data, they're able to understand exactly how Allison can work. And maybe a small company, even if they're spending a lot and they do have a lot of data, they still think in a one man show kind of way, or they think that they can do everything on their own using Excel or whatever. And I think that the main gap is in the understanding and the adoption, or trusting an AI tool with smaller companies. I think bigger companies they tend to adopt those tools even more. I know it might sound surprising, but I think that smaller teams and smaller companies, they still lack the general understanding of, you know relying on scale, on tools like creative analysis. So I'm not saying no. It is in our roadmap, and I think that the more advanced the technology become, and the more advanced the market becomes, and the understanding of what's important and what's not, and how much one person can achieve on their own, or how much one person can achieve using a tool like Allison, I think this will make a big difference, and that will be the tilting point for us, that we will start serving our technology in a self-serve mode, or maybe to smaller companies, maybe even for free in the future.
Yeah, interesting. You talked a little bit about the different customers that you have. Um, I'm curious about what you've learned working with these different industries, how different they are between gaming, B2B SaaS, banking, e commerce. Uh, what are the I guess, unifying common denominators that make it easy, or maybe not easy, but make it possible for Allison to be able to serve all of them at once without having four separate products. But what are the new? But on the flip side, what are the nuances that you've learned that maybe some of them are better a fit for Allison in the short term, or you need to create specific features or messaging to really connect with that audience specifically?
Yeah, it's another good question. So first, I'll tell you that we've actually learned a lot, and we've learned that in the end of the day, a video is a video, right? Even if it's an e-commerce video, if it's a banking video, if it's just pure B2B service video or gaming video, a video is a video in the end of the day. It has elements, it has features, it has sound, voiceovers, some moving parts, things are going on there. But there's a very so analyzing a video for all of those companies, all of those sectors is the same. The difference is in the insights or the recommendation part, where you need to take a decision, or you need to actually recommend on something. You need to have a way to understand what's impacting more or less within this specific vertical, or what you should maybe zoom into and have more data on. I can give you an example. On e-commerce, for example, showing a product, showing an actual product and having a CTA, it's very important, crucial. But maybe having a blue sky and a person speaking, maybe it's not even important. Or having an actual person in a video, it's not important. In banking, showing your bank representative, showing your bank presenter, showing your credit card, showing a certificate. This is very important. This is engaging. This is driving something. In gaming, showing the different models, the different characters, the different types of rooms or environments within the game. This is what makes the main difference. So what we've done is we created some sort of a sub-model for our Allison AI Insights or Allison Insights AI. This is our insights mechanism. We created a sub model that we've already pre trained for each one of those verticals. So, recommending or providing insights on gaming, it's completely different than providing insights on fintech or e-commerce or B2B, although that the raw data is the same. So even though the raw data is the same, its features, its sounds, its voiceover, text, colors, backgrounds, etc., but how you digest it and how you make it into an insight, this is the main difference.
So there's definitely customization in the model to make it more relevant and have deeper insights in a specific vertical.
Correct. Currently, we have 15 different submodels.
Wow.
Yes.
Very cool. Let's shift gears a bit, and I want to talk to you about fundraising and specifically what's happening in the Israeli market. As far as I understand, you raised seed round $5 million a couple months ago. Congratulations on that. I think you had some pretty well-known investors, including Andreessen and others in that round. I got an alert this morning on my phone, funny enough, that from Google Discover, like news alerts. According to PitchBook, fundraising or VC VC funding is down 74% in the Israeli market specifically. What is happening there? How were you guys able to raise? What was your experience having done this so recently?
Yeah, we've raised the first round. It was a pre-seed round of 5.1. It was a little less than a year ago already. How time flies. I also got this alert, by the way, this morning, and I think that the data is a little bit messed up, and I'll try to explain. I think that definitely there's a decrease or decline in Israeli investments, for sure. We all feel it. The market is harder. Investors are looking for more traction. They're looking for more validation. They're looking for a bigger or stronger team. They're looking for more seasoned or more experienced founders. They're looking to see higher revenues. They're looking to see higher retention rates and higher user bases than they used to see before. And I think overall valuations and ticket sizes have also gone down. Um, so yes, there's absolutely a decrease. I'm not arguing with PitchBook, but I think that because the 74%, this high percentage, comes from bigger deals. I think in the past 2 years, we saw crazy deals going on, crazy hundreds of millions of dollars of investments. And now, when the economy has shifted and macroeconomic trends look completely different, I think that even the bigger VCs and the bigger investors, even the more aggressive one, they tend to be more reserved. They tend to be more cautious and calculate their investments more thoroughly. So I think that there's definitely a decrease. I think that what's driving such the high numbers, such a high number, is the bigger deals that we used to see, and we're not seeing them anymore. But I can share from my experience, again, as a founder that raised capital lately. I think that it's you need to have a differentiator or few differentiators. You need to have secret sauce. You need to have a good vision. You need to have a good plan. You need to have a strong defense or defense mechanism, I call it, or entry barriers from competitors. And you need to have a defensible technology, and you need to be good executors in terms of how you actually execute the plan. Raising the money, it's just point A. What you do with the money and how you get good results and good metrics with it. This is the main challenge, and this is the main pain point for a lot of startups. So I think it's definitely more challenging. It's definitely more difficult. Um, when we raised the first round, something weird happened, and I think it took me a few weeks to understand it. Even I can say about myself, and this that we got a lot of excitement from a lot of good investors, and they wanted to keep the conversations and keep it going and keep it going and keep the due diligence and prolong it as much as they could without making an actual investment in the end. And I think what we fail to realize is all those investors, they weren't actively investing. They were shopping around, they were looking around, they were reserving their capital for whenever the economic situation will be better and will improve. And I think that those investors who didn't follow this path, who made good investments and were more aggressive with deploying their capital, I think those are the ones who actually got the good deals and not the others.
Definitely a lot of tire kickers. What about specifically what's happening in Israel? The market is down for VC, has been for about 18 months now, especially at the later stages across the board, right? We feel that in the US, it's happening in Europe and globally. But at least the news is ascribing some of the um, drop specifically in Israel as relates to the reforms that are happening in the judiciary. There's some unrest there. Is that a red herring? How does that affect startups? Um, as someone who's there and is on someone on the inside, can you enlighten me on what's happening from that perspective?
Yes, absolutely. And again, being completely honest, I'm scared. I'm scared. And as a founder, as a CEO, I hardly get scared. But I'm really scared. And I know that my employees are scared, and my fellow founder friends are scared, and my fellow CEO friends. We're all scared. We're mainly scared because somebody is moving our cheese, or the way we used to do things for so long, and we thought that they're doing pretty well, now it's being completely changed, and it's changed for an uncertain future, or it's being changed for a lot of uncertainty and a lot of uh, I can even call it in a binary way. Okay, it's not an equal way of doing this reform. Let's put it this way. There's a very strict way of doing it, and I think that the way of doing the reform is not looking at startup and the tech ecosystem and tech environment. And I don't know if you know this figure, but 50% of Israel's GDP coming from the tech industry, but only 10% of the population or the employees in Israel are actually working in the tech industry. So 10% are responsible for 50% of the GDP. Um, and the reason we're worried is because we don't know if we would still have a good place to work and a good place to grow our startups in a few years. And I think it puts everybody on edge. I'm looking for alternatives for my capital, for our capital as a company, alternatives maybe even for myself, a better place to have peace of mind and stability to work from. And I think that the people who are driving this reform, they're not really grasping it. They're not really understanding that there's people behind those startups and there's people behind those technologies, and they need a safe place and they need a good, stable economy and a good, stable political situation to work and flourish from.
Did you listen to Bibi's interview on Lex Friedman's podcast recently?
No, no, actually, no. I didn't have the time, but tell me, I'm curious.
No, I mean they talked a little bit about it. Bibi's a professional politician, so it's very hard to get to actually what's behind the words. He's very well spoken, but it doesn't necessarily say what's actually happening behind the scenes. Um, I think that I don't know what's happening there, and that's why I'm asking. But um, is there something specific that you would want to see happen um, as a founder, as a Israeli resident, as someone who's developing new technologies, building a company? What would you want to see happen that would make you feel comfortable? And is there perhaps something on the flip side that is there something like another shoe that might drop that would say, you know what, we need to pick up and move to Europe or US or somewhere else?
Yes, the main thing again is you touched it briefly. It's the judicial system. The judicial system is the backbone of the society, in my opinion. It's the backbone of the economy, and it's the backbone of the political political situation, the political way of doing things. So, I think that the first thing that needs to be changed is stay out of the judicial reform, stay out of nepotism and bribery and people who are not well equipped to do what they've put them to do, if you know what I mean. They don't have the actual resources and the actual skills. But I would like to see people strengthening the current system. Look, there's a lot of evidence that the current system works and works very well. If you look at the past 10 years, in Israel, there's huge growth. So, and if you understand that the political and judicial system goes hand in hand with the economy, so you do understand that if you change it, the economy will decrease and the economy will even collapse. So I think there's only a madman who would choose to change the judicial system and going on forward with this reform, because there's no way that's not going to impact economy. There's no way that the economy is not going to be, I think, badly and hardly impacted. Um, on the flip side, like you said, I think that more resources, capital, and actual resources needs to be allocated to the tech industry and to the startup industry. I don't know if you know the Israeli Innovation Authority. They have like a fund or a a capital reserve to support startups. So throughout this reform, they're actually taking money away from the Israeli Innovation Authority, meaning taking away money from startups, taking away money or reducing support in startups and reducing support in technology in Israel. And I think this will have a devastating effect on our economy, on our society, and but also on the way startup nation was formed and the future of the startup nation. If this goes on, the reform, I think within 5 years we won't be a startup nation anymore. I think the new startup nation would be probably a different city or a different capital in Europe or maybe in the US. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a scary prospect. Obviously, we all want to see a continued flourishing economy and innovation, especially with AI innovation. Israel has an opportunity to take a leading role in that, as it's done in cybersecurity and in health tech and other industries. So it would be really sad to um, slow that down or put obstacles in the way of innovators and entrepreneurs. Um, I would love to keep going, and I hate to end on that note, but we're a little overtime actually, so I appreciate you sticking with me. We like to close out with a lightning round. Ask you a few questions. Just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Sound good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So, what's one book, podcast, or newsletter that you find yourself recommending most often?
Wow. One podcast. I'm sorry, it's not yours. I'm sorry, but there's an Israeli podcast called Another Podcast for Startups by Guy Katzovich. I really like it, and I really like the way he presents and he hosts entrepreneurs and investors and etc.
Is it in Hebrew or English?
It's in Hebrew, unfortunately, but I think it's a very good one, and there might be a translation or might be a few episodes in English. I think. Um, in terms of a book, it's another good question because I have a few, but there's I think Dan Ariely. It's called. לא רציונלי ולא במקרה, unrational and not for a coincidence. I think it's a very good book, helping us understand the way we think and the way we act. And you said another thing is a movie.
A newsletter. You can give me a movie if you have any recommendations. I'm looking forward to watching Oppenheimer, which is the first time in a long time that I'm looking forward to a movie that's coming out. If you have a recommendation, I'd love it.
No, actually, a newsletter. I follow the both PitchBook and Crunchbase newsletters, and to be honest, I really like it. But there's also another one by Monday.com that I think has a lot of nice insights and a lot of good perspectives on products, specifically on SaaS in general. So I do recommend anybody who's interested.
Fantastic. And I appreciate the recommendation for Dan Ariely. He had a huge influence on me in my career early on, reading his book, Predictably Irrational, which came out a long time ago, and kind of got me down that rabbit hole of behavioral economics and just thinking about how people make decisions. It's I kind of defined my career and what interests me. What's a popular misconception that people have about you personally?
Hmm. Popular misconception. Typically, that I'm younger than I really am.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I think people, when they speak to me, they think that I'm in my 20s, but actually, I'm almost 36. And Also, people tend to perceive me as maybe, I think, an aggressive or maybe as a very powerful, strong leader or manager. And I think that the people who actually work with me would beg the differ, would think otherwise, would say that I'm more. more of a mentor and a visionary than an aggressive person, I think. And I really like, by the way, I also really like to teach, to share my knowledge, share my experience, share um, my learnings. I'm also lecturing in some of the Israeli universities and college, just because, again, I like it. I do it pro bono, because I want to give back and nurture the new um, generation of founders or tech entrepreneurs or just students in general.
Fantastic. Um, what's one piece of terrible advice that you've received in your career?
Terrible advice. Yes, people told me that if everybody says that my lawyer is not a good lawyer, then maybe he's not a good lawyer. Um, it's a terrible advice, because if everybody tells you that your lawyer is not a good lawyer, that means that he's a great lawyer. And
Well, I guess it depends who's telling you, right?
exactly, they're just trying to keep the barriers away. So this was one piece of terrible advice, yeah, I got.
That's a unique one I haven't heard. So thank you for that. Um, what's one principle or core value that you live by or try to live by?
Always be the hardest worker in the room. Definitely. Always be the hardest worker in the room. And always think 5, 10, 15 steps ahead. Always try to foresee the future. Imagine, all the possibilities and outcomes of every one of your actions. But at the same time, be the hardest worker in the room. I always am the first person who enters the office and the last person who leaves the office every single day.
Amazing. Setting an example from the top.
Exactly.
Asaf, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, learned a lot, and wishing you tons of success with Allison and with everything else. If you can close us out by sharing how can people reach you if they want to continue the conversation, and any other words of advice that you'd like to share with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody who's ever listening, who's ever interested, can reach out to me via LinkedIn, or just use my work email, asaf at Alison.ai. I would love to, again, to share my knowledge and speak to anybody. Um, and another piece of advice, I think, is don't be afraid from the new technologies. Try to use them as much as you can. Not necessarily Allison and not necessarily AI, but whenever there's a new technology coming up, there's a good reason for this, and there's a good reason why people came up with this technology. So again, don't be afraid and try to utilize them and use them as much as possible. And I think the more tools you will experience and experiment, the better understanding of what your strengths and your uniqueness and your unique differentiators are, it will really help you to succeed in a challenging future that I foresee. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Asaf. Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you, Moshe. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I really liked it. Thank you.